Hello again, welcome to my second video concerning the Little Man computer. So if you remember from our first video, we requested for two inputs, first and second, and we stored them both in memory, and then we chose to output our first number again. In this piece of code, what we're going to do is we're going to ask for an input, store it in first. Okay. We're going to ask for another input and store that as second, down here. Then we're going to load that first variable again. We're going to add, using the arithmetic logic unit, the value held in second to that value, and we're going to output the result of that, and then we're going to halt the program. So basically it's going to perform a simple addition. So if we start the program, as again, we always start at 0. So we've now going to request or fetch our first instruction from location 0. The program counter is incremented by 1 to 1, so that's ready for our next instruction. We're still focused on 0. So the fetch process is happening now. So it's fetched 901, as we discussed last time. 9 is concerned with inputs and outputs, and 01 is concerned with input. So 01 in the address register, 9 in the instruction register, and now we've requested for an input. So we will input 10. 10 is going to be our first value, and we're going to store that as first. 10 travels along the bus to the accumulator, and that completes that first instruction. So the program counter increments again, sends instruction 1 along to be fetched, so we've now fetched the value 308 from location 1. So as we discussed last time, 3 is concerned with storing, and the 08 is concerned with where we're going to store that information. So first is at location 08 in memory. So the fetch is completed. We're now decoding address register 08, instruction register 3. So the 10 now travels out of the accumulator along the bus, and it's going to be stored at location 8. So this is the execution part of the cycle. You can choose to speed up or slow down the Little Man computer. I've chosen to do it at quite a slow pace, just so we can talk about each part in detail. So now we're on line 2, which is concerned with an input again. Program counter is incremented, ready for instruction 03. So line 2 is an input. We know, because we can see the code 901, and 901 was the same for our first value that we requested for an input. So the 901 is going to travel along the bus. Remember, the 9 is concerned with inputs and outputs, and the 01 is concerned specifically with inputs. So we're going to drop the 01 off in the address register and the 9 off in the instruction register. And now we've requested an input. So we will go with 5. So that value now is going to go into the accumulator. The value 010 is going to disappear, and it's going to be replaced with 005. So the reason we stored 010 is because the 05 will wipe that value completely. So we've now moved on to instruction 3, which is concerned with storing this value. The program count is incremented. So 3 is now going to fetch this instruction from memory. Remember, the 3 is concerned with the storing, and the 09 is the location that we're going to store this data. So our variable second, we've given the value of 005. It's been fetched. Now decoding, breaking it down into 09 and 3. And now the 5 is going to leave the accumulator, and it's going to be sent along to location 9. That's now been stored at location 9, and that completes the execution part of the cycle. We've now moved on to the next instruction. So we're at line 04, the program counter increments again. 04 is concerned with the loading of the first value. So if you remember, we loaded the first value, we saved the first value into location 08. So first we're going to fetch the instruction that's going to tell us that. So the instruction we fetched is 508. So the 5 is concerned with loading, and the 08 is telling us where we're going to load it from. We fetch the 508. We now decode the 508. This tells us to load from 08. So we're now executing this piece of code. So the 8 we're seeing travel on the bus references the location 8. And obviously in location 8 we've got our first value, which was 10. So the 10 is now going to travel from memory along the bus, and it's going to go into the accumulator. So obviously you can see why it was important that we store each value, because each time the newest value overwrites the previous one. So we've now recalled the 10 and we've put it back into the accumulator. That completes our instruction. Program counter increments again. We're on instruction 5 at the moment. So instruction 5 is concerned with adding the value held at second. So we're going to location 5. As you can see, it's going to fetch 109. So the one part of this is concerned with addition, and the 09 is telling us where we're going to look for that addition. So the 09 here holds the value 5. So 109 has been fetched. It's decoded in the CPU. Open down there, 09 in the address register, 1 in the instruction register. So now the execution of that piece of code involves CPU accessing RAM and looking at location 9. Where it's then going to get the value 5 or 005. It's going to pass back along the bus. And what we'll see next is we'll see the arithmetic logic unit in action. Previously we've only seen it incrementing the program counter. What we're going to see here now is perform some basic addition. So the 5 and the 10 that was already held in the accumulator both go into the ALU. They add together 15, and the 15 is now the new value held in the accumulator. That completes that instruction. Program counter increments again. We're looking at 06 at the moment. So 06 is concerned with output. So as we remember from last time, 6. Our output code 902. So 9 is concerned with inputs and outputs. 02 is concerned with output. So the fetch portion of the cycle is almost complete. And 902 passes into the CPU. 02 and 9. So now the 15 will leave the accumulator, but it doesn't leave a value of 0. The 15 still is held in the accumulator, but we're now outputting the 15 here. And now we've moved on to our final instruction, which as we know is halt. So the program counter increments, but it won't be needed again, because when 7 passes along, we can see the value of zeros, which as we know means halt. So what's happened there? The coders requested an input, and our first input was 10. We stored that as first. We then requested another input, and that was 5. We stored that as second. We then loaded 10 back into the accumulator, and we added the value that we gave to second, which was 5. So 10 plus 5, 15. And then we chose to output that value here, 15. The halt instruction has been fetched, it's been decoded, and now it's been executed. The program is halted, and that was our simple addition.